course.
Oh,
Hello?
okay. I had to scroll down and then I can see you in the corner. Wonder what happens when I click on this.
It says we're live. Do you see a counter or a timer running?
Yeah, 22, 23. Drag from top. What? Okay. I got a friend that says it's working now, so. Hi, Libby. Yeah, we're having some technical issues and man, I need to shave.
That's okay. It's where you live.
Right. It's a thing out here.
Absolutely helps you stay warmer in the winter.
I get kind of itchy underneath though, it kind of drives me crazy.
Yeah, the best ones are when it gets really cold and there's icicles that form on them. That's the best.
Yeah, I've been there a few times.
Yeah, the best ones are when it gets really cold and there's icicles that form on them. That's the best.
Oh, my mom's lagging a little bit.
Okay. You gotta love technology.
Right?
Yeah. And there's icicles that form on them. That's the best.
Oh, my mom's lagging a little bit. Okay. Yeah, that's not 30 second punch. Is there another place you can plug that in?
Yeah, I love technology.
No.
Right?
Yeah, you don't want it?
You're lagging. That's screwing up this.
Earthy Yannish. Come in, Yannish.
All right, now I see you in the corner and I see myself, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't even know where to look at this thing.
Just look straight ahead.
I look straight ahead and I'm looking that way.
Yeah. So what happened to Chris?
I don't know. Like I said, I was talking to him and then it went blank and then you picked up. That was kind of weird.
Yeah, get higher.
Well, he sent me a link. Oh, wait a second. Here he is. Is this him?
Yeah.
Hey,
That's
Chris.
him.
And
Hello.
sitting by clip here. But
Hi, Chris.
42-0, not be running the ball, but the chains. So I guess that's really hard perspective about this performance.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, I can hear you, Daniel.
Okay. Hi.
Fails to move out of bounds. I think Shedeur Sanders will play better against USC because USC's defense is way more suspect. It's a defense that gave up 25 points to San Jose State. But Oregon's one of these teams that always finds a way to add talent on defense. The last few years, they've had really good prospects. They had 2 first-round picks in Thibodeau and Christian Gonzalez, who they got from Colorado in the transfer portal, ironically. And outside of Joe Horn Jr. and 87, the tight end, I mean, there's really no identity on this offense. The offensive line gave up 7 sacks. 6 of them felt like due to Sanders holding onto the ball too long. 6 of them felt like the offensive line too long on one of them, but maybe there's more sack. But I swear, offensive line was just suspect. But you got to anticipate. You got to be able to anticipate what the defense is going to do and react accordingly.
Well,
this point in the game, it just feels like Colorado wants to try to get on the scoreboard and get out of the stadium. Again, just keeps straight, throws to his first target.
yeah, the thing is with Shedeur, like, he steps back, and when the pass rush comes, he'll freeze. And that's, I mean, on the first 3 sacks that I saw, he did that.
I
And,
agree. I mean, there were moments where it looked like Shedeur Sanders got sucked into a tornado. Not just freezing, it looked like he was just standing there waiting for the tornado. I mean,
yeah.
brutal.
And he's done that for a while,
This
and
is the.
you can tell
Go ahead.
when he doesn't recognize the coverage because his feet will start moving more. He is a definition of happy feet. When you look that up on a happy feet definition for football, it's being scared of the pass rush, and that's what he does when he doesn't know what the defense is doing. When he doesn't recognize the coverage. And it was about the fourth sack that I saw that he pretty much tackled himself. He kind of froze up and he kind of turned and fell to the ground after running into the back of his own offensive lineman. But that Oregon defense was after him, and that was a blueprint that Jay, the coach of Colorado State, Norvell, he found that out, and
Yeah,
that's
this
how he
you can
almost
make
beat
the
them.
argument that this was missed by down good by Colorado. I mean, say the right reading credit for that. When rewatch version, Oregon defensive admit was just not like he keep up receiver on this play, and then another big for another.
Yeah, and that's all Oregon really left him was the short passing game, and that's how he got through, that quick one read kind of as soon as he
And
steps back,
14 for 14. So as Christian goes, good on me, and I think Harrison one of these the radar under.
Did we lose Chris?
I think so. It did the same thing. I went to where I can see myself.
The video here's the issue with the video is I'm on my iPhone. I have my computer next to me, but I'm on my iPhone. I can't hardly even see. It looks like I can't even see the plays.
Right.
Can you? Are you on a
Mine's
computer or are you on a phone?
no, I'm on the pad, and
Okay.
like when I was seeing the plays, it's kind of real, I don't know, lagging, like choppy. There's
Right.
Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Audio still live. It can be very laggy at times. There another clip here you to rewatch. This tape goes bad. What you saw on tape that was bad because these other 5 clips they are bad play clips of Sanders. What do you want to do from here, William?
Well, it's a bad game,
It is.
for him, and I mean, leave that up to Daniel. I mean, we can just talk about the good and the bad, and well, like I said, it's mostly bad, but
It's 90-10 bad for this game. I want to say strike one, maybe strike 1.5, but this is really the first bad game I've seen with Sanders. That may be more on me because you guys said you've seen multiple bad games of Sanders. So I'll take accountability for that. So All right.
Well, I was first, on Sanders and, rooting for him. And he, I kept watching and, seeing the faults. And then I saw what, he was doing. You take a projector and you put an offensive play on there. And you take the defensive play on another slide and lay it on top. And when he's going through his progressions, he's not saying, "Oh, this defense is here, and this guy is supposed to be here." He's looking at the receiver and then thinking about peeling back the layers and thinking about what the defense is doing and is this guy, going to be open? And that's why he's lagging and staring down receivers because he's doing a lot of things in his head.
Yeah.
And
all
I
right.
know this.
Let's take a look at this fourth clip. It's the first drive of the second half. This is probably where he's had some of the hits, as you stated. And yeah, you can tell he's already rattled. He makes the right read there, but I think Oregon was playing zone and his receiver was like a drag route. So he was able to execute that play successfully because Oregon was playing either cover 2 or cover 3 there.
And he was rattled the whole game.
Yeah.
And
I just want to show a bad clip or a clip where because the whole game. This was the first Shedeur Sanders. We want to show a clip where he looked bad and maybe break it down and see what he did wrong on the clip. And then we'll let Daniel talk about what he, because I'm pretty open and shut case, William, as far as film evaluation goes. Like, okay, yeah,
right.
Just like they're off. If they show the replay, maybe we can get a better read on this. If not, I mean, he just gets line collapses. The tight end throwing the slant. It looked 4 was open, but Sanders didn't anticipate that, and he just went down. He just couldn't react quickly enough.
Yeah, that was the one I was mentioning earlier. We can get Daniel in here to say a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the video, guys, I'm having a hard time seeing the video. It's really lagging on my end.
Me too.
So when you're referring to the video, it is difficult. But yeah, no, I think that William makes a good point. To me, Shedeur Sanders, this is the same guy I've seen all along since Jackson State. I go back to my report when I looked at him against Southern and North Carolina Central and Texas Southern. It's the same type of thing. He folded like a tent under pressure. He was a guy that, a lot of times went with a first read, not a great runner, looked like a classic FCS type of quarterback to me that, maybe had a little bit of upside because I did really like his ball placement and his ball security at Jackson State. Those are the two things that really stood out to me that I liked. And I said, okay, here's a guy that has some developmental upside. And, maybe it's a guy that could be brought in on a practice squad and perhaps develop somewhat because he has such good, ball placement. Those are the things I like the best. When we flash forward to this game against Oregon, this is the first time I've seen Shedeur Sanders really perform badly and poorly when it came to ball placement and ball security. And that to me was a huge concern because what I look at is a big piece or a piece of the puzzle here in the evaluation equation is I look at level of competition. And it's when he goes up against number 10 Oregon, and all of a sudden he looks completely overwhelmed and looks like he's completely overmatched. To me, that's a huge concern. And the two things I actually like best about Shedeur Sanders consistently at Jackson State and through the first, 3-4 games this season, all of a sudden he's not doing that anymore. I tallied 6 plays in this game against Oregon where he had disrupted passes. That to me is alarming. And so when I look at all those things, it's like the whole game, he just felt overwhelmed. And I'm not buying into this false bravado that he does pregame, where he goes around, walks on the O, trash talks, does all this stuff. From the very first snap, he looked scared to death. And he looked very uncomfortable to me back there in the pocket. And for the first drive was a quick 3 and out. And it didn't look like a guy that had any confidence. Didn't look like a guy who had any idea who he is as a person outside of his dad. It was a guy who seemed very uncomfortable, played uncomfortable, and the rest of the game went south from there. And so when I look at that and say, wow, what's happened here? That's what I walk away with. And so the two things I like best about Shedeur Sanders, to me, are now nullified. And that's why I moved him down today on my board from the 6th round to an undraftable free agent grade. Because at this point, I'm not seeing any redeemable qualities whatsoever that are draftable based on this game. Because when I look at him playing against Oregon and he's playing like this, I say, my gosh, this is the way my mind works. I'm like, if he looks like this against Oregon, what's he going to look like against the Philadelphia Eagles with Jordan Davis breathing fire over the nose? What's he going to look like against the 49ers with Bosa screaming off the edge? What's he going to look like against the Dallas Cowboys with Micah Parsons on a 4.39 40 coming screaming off the edge? What's he going to look like? To me, he completely melted down, and it's a huge concern. And I was really kind of left because I like I said, I liked the ball placement prior to that, and the ball security. But after this game, I was like, I'm not even seeing that at this point.
Yeah, and you mentioned how the confidence, it's an issue. I kind of get a Deshaun Watson without the moxie that Watson had vibe. I don't know if it's just this one game or if it's this performance in general, because before it just like he had a lot of like just hasn't applied this to this game. Kinds me of Deshaun Watson with moxie that he's got overconfidence and has, but he doesn't have that he pointed it out.
Right, and he doesn't have Deshaun's running ability either. It's something where, the Colorado, Yannish and I were going back and forth watching the Colorado State game. Remember that, William?
Yeah.
We're talking about it, and to me, it's like he seemed to completely just melt down during the game. They culminated in him poking that guy in the eyes through his face mask. No, they won the game, and he played really well down the stretch. There's no question about it. That was his most impressive. That's the best I've ever seen him play.
He was amazing in the quarter, right? There were moments half of that game.
Lost Chris again.
I think we have the rest of the audience still there, though, right?
Yeah, because it's still showing.
Right. So William, so we can just pick it up till Chris comes back on the show then for everybody else. And we thank you for everyone who's tuning in here. It just seemed like to me when we were watching that game, William, it just seemed like he was melting down in the first half and losing his composure. And, that was a huge concern too. I mean, NFL teams are looking for a guy that comes in there as a face of the franchise. A guy who can, we're not looking for Cardonius Tony here, under center. We're not looking for someone who's going to punch somebody in the face or, what's he going to do next? That's not what anybody, Johnny Manziel, that's not, somebody's going to flip somebody off or give him the finger or something. That's not what we're looking for here from an NFL team standpoint. So that was a huge concern. And then to see him follow that up with this performance, especially when he's supposed to be all this and that, the guy looked just scared. He looked just scared. I don't know what, I just felt like we really saw who he was against Oregon. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, against Colorado State, that's exactly what he did was melt down. And I'm not sure how he got it back, to actually win that game, because I was sure that Colorado State had it, there for a minute. And he came back and, did that. But in this game, it just over the last 2 games, it seems like he's done these things, that was just complete like meltdown. Like And like you mentioned, poking the guy in the eye, and then all the things, you know, that they're saying before the game and running around, you know, talking crap to the other coaches and such, you know. And that's not professional, and I'm not sure why Dion is letting him do it. You know, I mean, he's been in the league, he knows what it is, and it's like he just doesn't have control over it. And this weekend against USC, I'm not sure what's going to happen, you know, because that's Caleb Williams, and I don't think too much of him, you know, but that's just because of the same thing with the attitude and stuff that he has. I've never doubted Caleb Williams and his physical skills, but you know what USC is going to do, because they're expected to do so much this season. You know, there's so much hype put behind Caleb Williams, and now there's so much hype put behind Shedeur, you know, and that's not fair to anyone what they're doing, and they're doing it for clicks. And the whole thing needs work, and I think that's what Shedeur is going through as he watching or having Tom Brady help him. Like he said, it's like he's learning the game again. And like I said, now, like we were talking, he is going through some progressions, but I see him struggling like he's learning all over, you know?
Well, right. And that's why I said he's a developmental type of quarterback, because it looks like he really is raw.
Yeah.
When I watch him, I mean, because here's the NFL game. You and I talk about this a lot offline, right? I mean, we work together for first round mock.
Yeah.
And so we talk about this a lot, whoever's watching this right now. And, you know, it's one thing to be a great college quarterback, and there's a lot of them. We see them all over the place. But it's a big difference between being a great college quarterback.
Because I think you look at next week against USC, it's a game that's going to reveal a lot. And Sanders was a guy I was very high on in the summer. I felt like he could do everything you wanted a quarterback to do, but he couldn't do it consistently. He hadn't put it together yet. So he goes out and has this game against Oregon. I'm not sure if you've heard this term, Daniel, but I think this is what we in the industry like to call an eyesore game, where you have 3 or more of these in college during your draft year, start taking you off their boards and wondering if you have the attributes necessary to lead a franchise in the NFL, especially at the quarterback position. Would you describe this as an eyesore game for
No question. No question, it's an eyesore game. I think there's been some real eye-opening and eyesore moments because we lost you for a second on the video, but you know I was sharing with William. I don't know if anybody could see it or hear it, but there's a big difference to your point, Chris. Like being in the NFL, like there's a big difference between a great college quarterback or a good college quarterback and what makes a good or a great NFL quarterback. And there's a lot that gets lost in the translation. So when I look at quarterbacks, I'm looking at things like, you know, in the college level, is he going through his progressions? That's a huge part of the NFL game. Those guys are sitting back there, heads on a swivel. They're looking around left and right, going through multiple reads. You know, quick releases. Average release time in the NFL about 2 to 3 seconds, 2 to 2.9 seconds. I'm looking at release time. Looking at downfield placement, not completion percentage, but placement. Is the ball being put where the receiver needs to, ideally where he can grab it, catch and go, pick up some yak yards after the catch. Downfield ball security. Is he taking care of the football? Are teams, disrupting passes? Are they intercepting the ball? What's going on there? And the level of competition. And of course, in the end all, be all is professionalism. That's the big one to me, because these teams are investing tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases in these quarterbacks, and they represent they're the face of the franchise. And so when I see, like you said, Chris, is this one of the eyesore games? No question, to your point, it is. But to me, the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty against Nebraska, the comments after the game about the Nebraska head coach, flashing the Rolex on the sideline, flexing, doing that kind of thing, trash talking before the game, poking somebody in the eyes, mixing up the grill, putting the helmet after the hit on Hunter, all those type of things. And then he does it again this week. He's out there walking across the O, disrespecting it, with the rest of the team. To me, if I'm an NFL owner, and I've sat in rooms with GMs and head coaches and, these types of people, and to me, I've got to be sitting there as an NFL team wondering what this guy's going to do next. And it's really kind of frightening. So I mean, even if the guy was like, if this was Caleb Williams doing this stuff, I wouldn't touch him with a 100-foot pole as an NFL GM, because I don't know what he's going to do next. So it's what's going on with him, with all the things he's saying and doing. It's the eyesore game, like you talked about, Chris. Absolutely, to your point, 100% it is, because again, level of competition. If he looks this bad against Oregon, how is he going to look against Dallas and San Francisco and Philadelphia? That's what I asked. That's how my mind works, because this thing isn't about anything but winning championships and winning a Super Bowl.
How he's going to play at the net. Let's say
right.
Caleb Williams goes number 20 as a defense, probably playing 8 and twice. And what you're getting, that's exactly trying that. Because the Vikings won 4, the have won 3 right now, so that cleared up this weekend. But right now, why 70 probability in Bay is in tundra. It is cold there in San. It seems to yet. That's
good point.
The Shedeurs, I know he played in Colorado and he played 40 degrees, but but that's not the point. How is the play to the next level?
Right.
Oh, lost Chris again.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're talking about his attitude and the things that he is doing.
Right. That he's doing.
What I see with Cam Rising, when something like that happens, when the competition steps up or anything like that, he steps up his game.
Good point. Yeah.
And he gets hit hard, his helmet jumps up, he jumps up, gets back over there, and that's how an NFL player is.
No questions. Same thing with Spencer Rattler.
Yeah.
Same thing with a lot of these guys. We see it with Jordan Travis. We see it with Cam Ward.
Jackson Dart. I've seen Dart come off like 4 or 5 times, and he steps up and still plays, and something gets rough, and that's what he does. And I don't see
it's against the USC defense gave up 28 points State on Saturday. I would think most point are going to have a day 3rd round graders, and the teams that have third are teams that haven't done enough to. It's still, and you'd have to pretty much ball out the year, be more game between now and the end. We'd be very, like Daniel said, very comfortable about him fairly. It's just on how the season plays out.
Right. Well, the 2024 draft is loaded with quarterbacks. I mean, it's going to be a legendary class. And the thing is, there's only so many teams that are going to take quarterbacks. So players are going to slide.
I have 20 quarterbacks in my rankings, but I think there's a maximum. There's a maximum of teams for quarterbacks, and I would a minimum of 7 to 10. 14 in this. Sanders, 13 quarters. Probably you just watch the game. You're filtering out on the and you're one game alone. Now, if you just watch but watch this game with not only zero spot, he was on every column this year. Fox, ABC, Noon, Fox, ESPN. So ESPN were on the table works. One game on ESPN.
Lost Chris again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well, yeah. You were saying though before?
Oh, and I was talking, about this quarterback class, and I have 8 quarterbacks ranked in the first round or graded in the first round, and Shedeur Sanders definitely isn't one of them.
Yeah, no, I had 7 before the season, heading the season. I watched every single snap of these guys last season, the 7 guys I have in the first round. And I've never remotely seen Shedeur Sanders all throughout the entire time. When I watched him at Jackson State, when I watched him the first 3 games of the season with Colorado, I've never seen him more as a 6th-round talent. You know that because we've talked about it.
Yep.
I'm not even sure what people are watching who are saying he's a 1st or a 2nd-round guy because it doesn't translate. The game doesn't translate. He's not going through his progressions on a consistent basis. He's locking in the receivers, which his daddy should tell him is a kiss of death in the NFL. He doesn't have a rocket arm to compensate for it, right? He's more of a touch passer, right? He's more of a touch passer.
Yep.
So he's locking in. Imagine this in the NFL. You're standing back there trying to process and read defenses backwards for 3-4 seconds. We see how well that worked out for Trey Lance.
Yeah.
And he's standing back there and he's trying to do all this. And then he stares down the receiver. I mean, Will Levis did that all the time at Kentucky. And he was an embarrassment against the Chicago Bears in the preseason. They couldn't even play him again. They had to say he was injured and stash him or redshirt him and put him on the roster because it was so bad.
Yeah.
When these quarterbacks come in there and they're locking in the receivers, they're going to get slaughtered in the National Football League. And when he's standing back there with that kind of a release time and not releasing the ball, we saw what happened to Trey Lance. He's going to get knocked out in the pocket in the NFL. And the ball placement, if doesn't have that part of it, the ball security, it's going to be even worse. And then he's going around doing trash talking. These defensive players are going to take exception to that in the NFL. If he's flashing the watch, these guys don't care. They all have 10 watches to flash too. He's going to come. I mean, Deion Sanders is going to get his kid hurt doing all this stuff.
Against CSU, that player tried to hurt him. That defensive.
Yeah, Kamara. Yeah, he drove him right into the ground. That's the dude that he poked. That's the dude he poked. That's the dude he poked in the eyes.
Well, the thing is, you just mentioned Trey Lance, and that's what I see when, I see somebody that's scared. Trey Lance's body language sees it, but his mouth doesn't work like Shedeur's. But it's the same kind of thing. To where they don't know what they're doing. That they get rattled. They get happy feet and start sweating and misses a throw. Well, Trey Lance misses a throw, and all of a sudden, just doing this body language, and it's not professional.
We have Chris.
Yeah, you're right. Body language has to be congruent. It has to be humble. You have to have humility at quarterback because, confidence leads to when you lose 42-6, confidence leads to overconfidence. Overconfidence comes across as cockiness, even if you're not subconsciously being cocky. And you're being too edgy or too cocky, that just comes across as arrogant. Even if you're not intending to be arrogant, it just does, especially after an eyesore game. I think that's the point you're really trying to hit at.
Exactly. And, the cockiness, a little bit of that is one thing. But, as soon as they get arrogant, that's a problem. You got to have confidence as a quarterback,
Oh, absolutely.
And cockiness is next. That's kind of, strutting yourself. But arrogance is like, thinking that you're better than everyone else. And that's in my book. But it's not a good thing to get that far and to, run your mouth like that if you can't back it up,
Right.
And the biggest challenge is our team's going to have to evaluate: is this guy fake? Is this guy confident, fake confident, overconfident, cocky, arrogant? I feel like he's in, but he's closer to the cocky. I think he's overconfident, but it feels like he's closer to the cocky, arrogant side of the scale. If you just watched the way he's carried himself on a few of the runs to get the chains moving, and his teammates can think of him as an alpha male or a leader for that, and that's fine. But NFL teams are going to look at the big picture, and they're going to make their decision based on what they see with the big picture.
Absolutely. You know, I wonder to myself, Chris and William, I wonder to myself if this guy was named Bob Jones, you know, what kind of press he'd be getting. Is he getting this press and love and attention because he's Deion's kid? What are your thoughts about that?
I'm not sure. I think that might be part of it, but I mean, he's not doing the stuff off the field that Johnny Manziel did, like after he won the Heisman his first year, because all that stuff that Manziel did before his draft year came after he won the Heisman, and it just came like a blur. Same with Winston, technically, because Winston, it looked like he was humble his first year when he won the Heisman. It looked like he was doing everything right, and then just sort of hit. And then he had the sophomore redshirt year. He's still effective at the college level, but all the stuff with Winston as far as his attitude and the sexual assault allegations, it just came out of nowhere. And that's a different story.
Yeah, but with Sanders, it's the media for one thing, because they are blowing this up like none other. And it just happened so fast to him. You know, there wasn't a lot of press when he was at Jackson State. All of a sudden, he gets to Colorado, and I mean, you know, he's up there, like I said, flashing Rolexes and everything else. And it's like, dude, I mean, calm down a little bit.
This isn't Brady. It's like Texas A&M to the extreme of Manziel.
Manziel, that's what he did. But I mean, he made his own name. You know, but Sanders, there's a weird kind of fatherly interaction between those two. You know, he has respect for his dad, but still, you know, his dad is letting him do these things when he shouldn't. And it's a kind of thing that's really different, you know.
Well,
and then you put on ESPN for every click. But go ahead, Daniel.
No, you hit on a really good point there, William. You hit on a really good point. I just want to bring this up for discussion amongst the three of us here, because, you know, his dad knows the NFL game. His dad is a Hall of Fame corner, right? So what's very confusing to me is why he allows his son to play in this elementary 1-2 read system when that's not the way the NFL works, and he knows it. Why does he allow his son to stare down receivers when he knows that he himself made it to the Hall of Fame on quarterbacks who stare down receivers? And if he's not being able to be controlled by his dad, what chance does anybody have in the NFL once his bank account is bigger than theirs?
Yeah, exactly. You know,
and this guy's out of control. I mean, he's already out of control. His own dad can't even bring him in.
Well, you know, it's like Brady said, you know, get his ass out of that Rolls Royce and watch the film. You know, I mean, that was you know, mentoring right there. He's telling him to calm down, you know, and that's exactly what that was. But I don't know. I don't see the translation to the NFL like very well, like at all.
I've seen mostly shotgun spread plays. I've seen a few balanced run first plays. He's got the arm to play in a vertical offense, but I think I only saw him call one West Coast passing game play on his highlight reel and in his spring game. And it was in the spring game. I haven't seen him call a West Coast play during an actual college football game. I'm not counting the spring game. It's more of a scrimmage. It's more of a practice scrimmage. Yes, it's technically a game, but it's more of a practice scrimmage than an actual game itself, because there's no people there. There's no crowd. There's no obstacles you have to overcome.
Well, you know, that offense that they're running, you know, was Sanders going to Mike Leach, before he passed away, and getting, his idea, and Mike Leach told him how to put it together. And, they got Shedeur in there to make sure that he was confident in running it, and it's an air raid offense, and that has never, ever translated to the NFL. And
Mahomes, I saw him run a few plays in practice where he was playing under center.
Yeah.
So I had a feeling he could be the outlier, and now he's just a sensation in the NFL. But he had a lot more humility than Sanders, and he'll keep his teammates in line if they're misbehaving. Like one example was when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl and went to the White House. Travis Kelce tried to go on the microphone and speak, and then Mahomes apologized to the president and the people at the White House because he knew that was unprofessional, but he was trying to handle that way without teammate.
Well, speaking of, Mike Leach, he's from Texas Tech, where Mahomes came from. And Andy Reid with the Chiefs, lets them come up with their own plays, and run them in practice, to see if they'll work. So I can definitely see, the touches and the influence of that in Mahomes. But Mahomes is something else. There will never be another Patrick Mahomes, like there never was another Joe Montana.
Right. And of course, everybody trying to copy him just makes him have even more control in it because there's only one, like you said.
Exactly.
There's only one, and that's the trap that Caleb Williams has to be concerned about not falling into.
Exactly.
When he's back there trying to manufacture big plays, because when he's just under center and he gets rid of the ball quickly, he is great.
Yeah.
But when he tries to go back there, Patrick Mahomes does it on necessity.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams does it to put on a show and win trophies.
Exactly. And that's the difference between those two. And that's what I don't like about Caleb Williams.
Right, absolutely. And the thing about Caleb Williams is depending on where he ends up, that may not look too pretty in the NFL.
Well, you're wearing that Jets cap there, and they seem to be well on their way to.
Hey, don't get me started on that. I've been saying it for 3 years. The Jets don't have any offensive tackles.
Right.
I wrote about it for 2 years with SI Jets. Joe Douglas doesn't have a clue how to build an offensive line.
How long did Aaron Rodgers last?
Exactly. 4 plays.
Yeah.
That was the easiest math I think I've ever done doing this stuff. He had a 39-year-old quarterback. A 39-year-old left tackle with a bum shoulder on one side of the line, and the guy hadn't played in 2 years on the right side.
And that's the thing about the draft. The good players end up, with bad teams.
Well, right. Yeah, but let's hope that Caleb Williams doesn't end up with the Jets for his sake.
My final: when you're evaluating quarterbacks, you've got to look at the guy who's made it would founder and screw up a thing really efficient. I like from an art perspective, and his placement can be times, but sessions I 6 foot ruling once, and it was during a state highlight Colorado. And if he's too aggressive and it comes across as, you could argue that he's not going to make it. You want to see him do our leader. See the innovate the players.
Oh, well, there goes Chris again.
Anyways, are you hearing some feedback?
Me? No.
Yeah, I'm hearing like this feedback, like it sounds like McDonald's repeating my order back to me.
Right. I've had a few like that happened,
Yeah. And I love McDonald's. It's one of my first jobs.
When's that McRib coming back?
Oh, exactly. I love that McRib. Absolutely. I love that place. I could eat there 3 times a day if it was up to me. But
Right.
but no, it's those are the things that Chris was talking about there. About how he's going to translate to these teams in the NFL, Shedeur. And to me, I think everybody wants to push for him to be a first-round pick, like it's some badge of honor. But
Right.
the worst thing that can possibly happen to one of these prospects is they get overgraded, and grossly overgraded at that. I mean, I had an undraftable free agent grade on Trey Lance pre-draft.
Yeah.
Had they brought
That's a good
him
point,
in like that?
First thing I noticed in April of 20, like draft, is pick 1 to 2 progressions. Turning part, so we're looking at just ignored that. Wasn't turning the bird. Like the first FCS have zero fumbles in a season, and media overlooked the fact that 1 to 2 reads despite his undeniable arm talent. Yeah.
Which is amazing to me, Chris, that Kyle Shanahan, who's viewed as a quarterback genius, overlooked that.
I don't know how that happened. That's my
Saw
team.
that at the first, like April 8th, 2020, like the day the draft ended. First thing, I was quarterbacks on a PM simulator. I wanted to try to get a read on things, and I love Lawrence and Fields, but I one with Purdy checked off more boxes for me.
Yeah, that's super impressive, Chris, that you had Brock Purdy that high. He said he had Brock Purdy as his QB3, William.
Oh, that was one thing is that year I really didn't look at the quarterbacks.
No, I know, but I'm just saying it was impressive that he liked them that much, because a lot of people, I mean, every GM in the league didn't see him that highly.
Well, yeah, but he had tight ends is something that I look at. How they use.
I know you love that,
And he had Charlie Kohler, and that was one of his best targets. San Francisco was one of the best places he could have landed.
Absolutely.
Having Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and now Christian McCaffrey. They're undefeated in the regular season since the McCaffrey trade.
See, that's an interesting point too. If Justin Fields ends up in San Francisco,
yeah, I mean that would have been something else too, because I mean landing in Chicago is like landing at the New York Jets. I mean I don't know what's going on there, but
I don't know what's going on either. It's having connection issues on my end, but it's for only team next to him is maybe Ivey and Shanahan are probably the only coaches who completely rewire him, and I don't see I getting a quarterback like taking high some team taking a quarterback right. He's playing so I think he'd have to go to an offensive move, and he'd have to go to a situation where under a really back that's on the brink of for a year. If the Jets offense-minded coach could make an argument for the Jets, and I like Saleh. I just don't think they have a quarterback, and was with Denver, but he's a great offensive player for Rodgers, and that plays the offense mind around Rodgers. So I think Sanders would have the right team in order for him to succeed, and I can see why you and Daniel think it's a long shot. But last thoughts on just anything in general, and then we'll sign off because we're already at the 40 an hour or less. Because where Daniel's at, it's like where I'm at, and I don't want to overdo the first recording, even though it's fun having you and Daniel on. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Chris, for having us on. This is good. This is really good. I applaud the fact, Chris, that you're bringing game film into this equation, because it's something where most everybody who does this on different draft platforms, it's just a sentence or two about the player. And most of that even sounds like the same from one site to the next. So the fact, and there's no game film evidence, there's no suggestion of games, there's nothing to do with the games. So the fact that you brought us on to your show and you're talking about game film, I applaud that. I think it's great.
Thank you. I didn't know how this would turn out. This was my first time incorporating game film on the live stream. And, you know, it looks like it, while it was laggy at times, it looks like the game film worked through iMovie. It looked like it was a success. And if we wanted to collaborate on future projects or future quarterback evaluations, I think that's something we could discuss in the future off the air.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you for having us on. And it's been great. It's always great talking about football. My wife always says you need more guys to talk to about football. I'm tired of listening to it. We'll be sitting at dinner. I'll be talking about Shedeur Sanders. She's like, I don't want to hear any more about Shedeur Sanders.
My mom sits here and listens, you know, and she's like, "What?" Yeah, no.
That's great. It's great.
Appreciate you putting together, you know, those clips so we can use them in our
Absolutely. And also too, thank you for doing all this prep work and everything, this behind the scenes stuff that nobody ever sees to bring us onto the show, Chris. Thank you.
No problem. Just wasn't. I've screwed like predictions, I've typed stuff for my. I never even shared. I go and I think I've stream. Joe was on talk show, but he always calls through talk show. He walks around the city. So that's fine. You know, I wasn't sure how this, and it sounds like it's been a success. I know our viewership is up, like 5 viewers. That's thank you, viewers.
We lost him again, but you know, for our audience out there, you can find us at firstroundmock.com, you know, and on any of our sites, Daniel Kelly and myself, William Yannish.
Yeah. I'm at First Round Mock. What's your handle on Twitter?
On Twitter, it's Holly13Wood.
Yeah, no, cool. That's very cool. Yeah, we appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. You know, the passion that you guys have for this, to care enough to actually want to listen to a show, and people you may not even know yet, you know, and ourselves, you know, talk about these players like this. We really appreciate you tuning in and checking out our stuff, and that we really thank you for that.
Yeah. I would click the end stream button, but there was a Wi-Fi issue, so.
But you know, I kind of feel bad for talking about Shedeur, you know, with the CU being my mom's alma mater, and
well, here's the thing. It's people accuse me. I mean, if there's been hundreds of people, you've seen them probably, that accuse us of hating. Right? This is something that's interesting. Hating on Shedeur Sanders. This isn't hating. This isn't personal. This is evaluating. To me, the person that loses the most by being overgraded is the player themselves.
Exactly. Just like Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody in America is doing any favors whatsoever to Shedeur Sanders by calling him a first-round draft pick.
Yep.
There's nobody doing me favors because you go look at the Oregon game. Okay. Yeah. When you see Caleb Williams moving around doing all this stuff, maybe we can have that conversation of why maybe he should go in the first round.
Yeah.
This guy looked like he didn't even belong on the field.
Yeah.
You know, so he was just dink and dunk and it looked like scared to death. And he was, you know, he doesn't belong in the conversation. It's the worst thing. So when people say you're hating on Shedeur Sanders, actually it's not. Actually, we're trying to help Shedeur Sanders. That's what we're trying to do. Because if he actually goes in the 6th or 7th round or goes undrafted,
he can have a chance.
He can have a chance. He'll have maybe a couple of years to hang around a practice squad and learn and get used to the timing at practice and the games.
Yeah.
He'll be able to acclimate and maybe sit under like somebody's like Jordan Love did for a couple of years, sit underneath Aaron Rodgers, or like Aaron Rodgers sat underneath Brett Favre, or like in these situations where these guys can sit and learn for a couple of years, because the speed of the game in the NFL is dramatically faster, as we know, as it is in college.
That's what I was about to say. Was talking about the speed of the NFL and watching people, some of the players and such. That was one thing I watched Kyle Allen struggle with, because I watched him. I followed him since high school, and he struggled with it, and it wasn't at first. It was like after a minute. It was kind of weird how he did it, but it's definitely not talking bad about him, but
No,
the speed of the NFL, it's not college anymore. In college, it's a
it's
whole,
a different world.
you know,
It's a different world. These coverages in college. I have an article coming out tomorrow on Trevor Lawrence on Yardbarker. The difference between the college and the pro game. These college coverages, a lot of them are playing off man, soft coverages, loose zones. These are guys going to class all week. 75, 85% of these guys are never going to even try out in the NFL.
yeah,
And it's such a difference in the speed of the game and the complexity of the game.
yeah.
You go up against Bill Belichick, it's not man or zone. It's perhaps both at the same time.
That would be bad to watch with Sanders.
Oh, Bill Belichick would. It would be ridiculous watching if Belichick schemed against Shedeur, and that's with Dion being a Hall of Fame corner. It would be embarrassing.
Yeah,
It'd be embarrassing because all you have to do. I'm not even a coach. I'm not even a coach, but I know for a fact I could defeat Shedeur Sanders. And
right.
the way I would do it is send a heavy dose of pressure, much like we saw in Nebraska, much like we saw Colorado State, much like we saw Oregon, and I would play press man, and I would have 8-9 guys down in the box playing a short screen game and those type of little passes he likes to build his confidence, and I would dare him to beat me deep. I would dare him to beat me intermediate, and I'd bring blitzes all day long right up the middle, right where he freezes. It's easy, and I'm not even a coach. See, that's why we're getting back to the point. What we're trying to do is help Shedeur Sanders. I know that sounds outrageous because the national media frames everyone's minds around the fact that he's this all-pro player waiting to happen. But the reality is we're trying to help him because if he has the time to develop, he'll actually have a chance. If he goes into a situation the first round playing like he played against Oregon, what's going to happen, William?
There's going to be one of those on the screen. Big fat bro, and
it's an injustice. It's an injustice what's being done. It's like Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson showed nothing at BYU that warranted a first round or a top 5 or a top 10 pick or a first round pick, period. He was a guy who couldn't even play within structure.
I thought he could, play a little bit, and I kind of liked, some of his film from Utah, BYU. But after that, it's like you said, within structure and, having to deal with trick plays and that kind of stuff, maybe he could.
Absolutely. That was his best game ever against the Miami Dolphins in the first half when LaFleur had all those trick plays mixed in. That was his best play with the Jets when he was allowed just to play sandbox football and just kind of, that's him.
Yeah. And that's the same thing, with Manziel, because Manziel, he never watched any film, and Murray doing the same for Arizona, not watching any film, and it's like, man, players, coaches, nothing now but analysts, and we're watching all the film, to figure out who these guys are. This right here, this last game against Oregon was an example of why you have to watch every game.
Yes.
everything you can to break it down and to get that idea. Some players, you know, you have it figured out the first couple minutes who they are, and
Yep.
after that, but still, you got to get through it, and that's just how it is. And that's one thing that I figured out.
Well, right, and not only that, but to your point, William, you know, Shedeur Sanders is definitely one of the harder evaluations to do in all reality, because what makes him difficult is he's got that great, you know, not in the Oregon game, but overall Jackson State and Colorado, he's had really superb ball placement, and he's taking good care of the football. So you have to look at that, but then on the other side of the equation, like you pointed out. You know, I mean, he's been sacked more than any college quarterback in America this season at 22 sacks because of what you pointed out. It's taking too long to process what's happening. And if you can't process a college game, there's no possible way you can process the NFL game.
Yeah, and that's just how it is. But you know, watching the Oregon film, he got so rattled that his ball placement was even out. You know, I mean, he's overthrown.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Overthrow that was, you know, like 7 yards over the top of the receiver. You know, and it just he got so rattled, and that's how they beat him.
Yeah, absolutely. I just got a message from Chris saying he left the stream because I think something happened on the technical side with him. So I guess that's it, William.
All righty. Thanks to all our, you know, however many are left. I know there's a couple of them out there.
Yeah, for sure. No, thank you for tuning in, and you know, definitely if you want, you know, you can go on our social media handles if you want to interact with us. We'd love to interact. You know, just say you watch the podcast and drop your information, and we'll answer any questions you have or anything like that. I know it can be frustrating watching something and be like, how do I get a hold of these guys? Well, at First Round Mock, you get a hold of me, and then William, your Twitter handle.
Holly 13 Wood.
Sounds good. Well, hey, anything else?
I think that's it, man.
That's it. Hey, well, thank you so much, William. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having us on, and thank you to our viewers this evening. And continue to enjoy the football.
All right.
Okay, thank you much, everybody. Take care, William. Thanks for being on tonight. Good job, man.
Thank you.
Round mock, William Yannish. Great. I've been trying to end the stream for a while. I've had no success. So long. See position. Utopia.